Cool, we're getting through these episodes very, very quickly because to my immediate left-hand side, or for you folks at home, the right-hand side on your screens, I've got a very, very good friend, person who's my partner in crime when it comes to sim racing commentary, Glove Pup, aka Paul Glover. Welcome along for episode 33, buddy.
33? Hey, that's a good number.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Alex. Pleasure. We've had to postpone this a couple of times, but we finally made it. Letting people behind the curtain briefly, you know. Like.
Yeah, because my schedule's been so far discombobulated by Harry Potter's magic wand. I don't know what's been going on at the minute. I can't swing the cat around the room quick enough.
But that's a good thing for you, though, right? You know, somebody who does commentary full time. I think it's a good problem to have, right?
It is a good problem to have, but you wish that you could be like the clones out of The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger to like multiply yourself to have world domination of commentary booths.
Thank your lucky stars a moment, because I don't think it'll be too long until we've got AI commentators. So, you know.
Well, that's actually a topic I want to bring up with you anyway later on the show.
Okay, go on.
But we're not going to do that yet, because what I like my guests to do, Paul, if you could do us the honour of introducing yourself to the viewers and to the listeners ahead of us getting underway for episode 33, buddy, so the floor's yours.
Okay, so my name's Paul Glover. I've been around the sim racing scene a little while now, and I kind of started doing race department back in the day, about 2018 now. Mm-hmm. So coming on 10 years, and I work in IT. I've always had a bit of a fascination with technology and racing games as I've grown up, and just started dipping my toe there in doing a bit of commentary first, and then did a bit of a set of course of broadcasting and R Factor 2, and other bits and pieces, and just from there, it's just snowballed a bit, really, kind of organically, without really even trying it, because it's not like my full-time job. I have a full-time job Monday to Friday working in IT, but it's a bit of a passion project, and I've also met some great people over the years, yourself included. You know, if it wasn't the fact that, like, Bram over at Race Department, I wouldn't know Paul Jeffrey and other people, and then the likes of Steve Worrell, Dan Terry, etc. And from there, you know, you build friendships, you build trust, and I get asked to do bits and pieces here and there. And I'm also and that's how I met James Parfitt as well, who has his own. He's branched out doing his own thing now, and I do a bit of work for him as well. So and I've also done a podcast before at Race Department, launched that, did that for about 3 years as well. So yeah, I've done lots of things. I'm involved in another podcast about football and other bits and pieces. So I'm all over the place, mate. I've got many fingers in many different pies, but most of the stuff I do is around sim racing, because I absolutely love it.
You cheeky bastard, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to say you got your fingers in too many pies, Mr. Glover. But for those that know the history of me and Paul, we sort of really first met on the Sim Racing Expo Professional Trophy last year in the lead up to the to Nuremberg, and then we were commentating over the final 6 hours, which was won by Williams Esports. Great battle between them, Triton and UOL. And then we've also been working together on a lot of projects such as SGP Rivals with Intel, and of course quite recently the fantastic championship that we had, which was the MOZA Racing Endurance Championship powered by SimRacing.GP, and the SimRacing.GP podcast powered by MOZA Racing. I'm so glad that I made sure I took a deep breath before I said that. But where myself and Paul, we've done I think we did 2 of the 6 broadcasts for the race and the podcast without really taking a proper break. And that just, first of all, goes to show, I think, from both our perspectives, Paul, even though that you're in IT full time and you're doing this as a passion project, but you are getting recompensed for it in some way, which is a good thing. We still are just as passionate, and we can warble on for hours, mate, given the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the greats, and some of the greats. Like a commentator that I enjoy listening to is Martin Haven when he does Le Mans 24. And they, when in the early hours, they just go on about the weirdest stuff, and sometimes it has a kind of a tedious link to what's going on screen, but sometimes it can just be utter nonsense, and it could just be entertaining. And sometimes, I was racing with Gareth Ronda last night. Was it last night? No, it wasn't. It was on Tuesday night. It's now Thursday as we record this, and and it got into the conversation, like some of the stuff that I say, like you could say they're Murrayisms to some respect, and even when I do these things and I say these things, I even correct myself. Like this one he referenced, I corrected myself on air. I was like, oh, that doesn't make any sense, and but I'm just myself, and I think that's all you can be. And I think we've built a really good relationship just by being ourselves. And I really enjoyed doing the on-site thing at Sim Racing Expo was a whole new experience for me, because everything that I've done has always been virtual, and then to suddenly be thrusted in front of an actual camera, and I think you could see how nervous I was, and I was nervous, but I'm always nervous at everything I do, and I think if you're not nervous, there's something wrong with you, because I think that's why you can get a little bit overconfident, a little bit cocky. We're doing. Every time I do a broadcast, whether I'm doing the broadcast, whether I'm just doing commentary, I get butterflies, and I think that's only natural. But that particular case, I had a light on me, and I thought this is different. But you were there, and you kind of like you said some encouraging words, and once we got going, it was absolutely fine. And then what was really lovely is I even text my family members and said, oh, by the way, because I don't really talk about it. I don't really. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think they really understand it. You know what I mean? Like, what, you sit in your office doing sim race? Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's what I do. So I text the family WhatsApp group, because everybody's got one, right? So I text it, and then and I muted my phone, obviously, because we were live. But the feedback I was getting from family members was fantastic, right? Mm-hmm. And families can be tough sometimes, right? They could be your hardest critics, but to get that kind of feedback from your sister, from your brothers, I'm the oldest of 5, so there's quite a gang of us, and then there's nieces and things like that, and so it was really good. And I was like, I walked away from that going, that was a knackering weekend, because I was on the booth as well for SimRacing.GP.
Yeah,
getting people in and out of rigs. Got to meet Tony Kanaan, which was amazing, and spent a nice bit of time talk. It was really lovely, actually, because everyone was fascinated by Tony. I got to talk to him, and I was fine. I was done. Right, that was me.
Yeah.
But I was chatting to his wife. His wife was absolutely
Lauren.
Lovely.
Yeah. Lovely lady.
Lovely, absolutely lovely. Right, and then every time they walked past the booth, she always gave me a wave. Because I thought, because I think a lot of people must head towards her husband because it's Tony Kanaan, right? And I get it, right? Because he's the legend that he is. But I was like just chatting to her, because she was kind of in the distance, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna have a chat with his wife, and she was lovely, but I loved that weekend. I thought I was brilliant, Alex, and obviously you were there this year as well, weren't you? So
it's my 3rd year of involvement with the Sim Racing Expo, because I've talked about this, and this is a long story, very, very heavily curtailed, that I did Road to Sim Racing Expo 2021. Still remember Misha saying to me this year, no hard feelings that we picked Radio Le Mans over you guys. And I said, look, I haven't got a problem. I didn't know whether I was going to get the call up or what. But then to do 2022 and 2023 in 2 different venues, so the Nürburgring Messe, Dortmund, I think, was a better fit for the Expo, in all honesty. The stage was a lot more compact, a lot more community-esque, sort of cozy, but also the commentators were able to look at the big Trinitron screen, which was where the feed was being pumped through. So that was even better than the year before. But yeah, I think it was like everyone made a beeline for Tony. I just, because the week previously I'd been in Portimao and met Rubens Barrichello, his Bezzy mate.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that I broke the ice with Tony was, I said, I can't believe this. One week it's Rubens Barrichello, and another week it's you. And he went, "Oh, poor you," like this, and cheeky smile on the face. And I said, "Good to see you, Tony. Good to see you, Lauren. Lovely to have you both with us." And they'd flown all the way from Indianapolis because they were working with Gomez Sim Industries, and then Tony had to fly back, I think, early on the Sunday morning because he had other commitments. But yeah, that was a really, really good weekend.
Yeah.
Just like everyone meeting everybody.
Yeah.
For anyone that might have seen the highlights video, someone caught Jardier mid-bite on the paddock walk with the cookie in his mouth, and that was that man there.
Yes.
But I think it was sort of like the culmination of everything coming together. I've still got James Parfitt asking me if I can be plumbed into his suitcase every time I go to the expo every year. I said, mate, I'd have to be sending you an IOU for bloody overweight baggage, and all there'd be would be like this person who's completely out of breath, starved of oxygen, nearly on his deathbed, and you hear wheezing from the suitcase. But I think it was just like the culmination of everyone coming together and really, really having a great time. And that's one of the things that I love about the sim racing community when it comes to these LAN events, that you're not stuck behind a wall like, say, a WhatsApp call or a Discord server or a vMix call. You're in your ad personam. You're there speaking to somebody, and when you accidentally interrupt each other, it sort of feels more natural than it does on a normal call, on a call, doesn't it?
It does, because there's always that slight delay, isn't there? You know, technology doing its thing. But you going just saying there about the community feel. You know, I got to meet so many people, people from Race Room. Gamer Muscle was there. Found out he lives literally 5 minutes away from where I live. And like Eamon Murphy. By the end of the weekend, it was like me and Eamon Murphy were like the best of buddies. I mean, I love a hug. I'm quite happy to give a man hug. I'm not afraid, and he was more than willing to give one back. You know, so we were hugging most of the time. Every time we saw everybody, and got the opportunity to talk and speak to Jardier, not just on, you know, while he was eating a cookie, but also while he came over to the sim rig. And there was a few others as well, and a few other the esports drivers as well, you know, face to face having conversations. And, you know, one of them came over to me. I just want to say I've really enjoyed your commentary for the race yesterday. And I was like, oh, really appreciate that, while I was working on the booth. So yeah, it was lovely, and getting to go have meals with people, and even I met people that I hadn't even heard of before, you know, out there as well. And you know, we all started following each other on social media, as you do, and things like that, and sort of hear from them now and then. So yeah, I think fantastic, and I think more things like that need to happen. I know some communities do it as well. They'll meet up at certain things, go karting and things like that. But everybody's got lives, right? And that's the thing. It's that people have got different commitments, kids, you know, whatever, work, etc. And it's hard, but loved it. Loved every moment, and didn't make it this year. Unfortunately, other things came up, but yeah, I would like to visit again.
Yeah, I mean, at least we know what the dates are for next year anyway, 18th to the 20th of October. There's a 95% certainty I'm going to be back anyway in the booth, which is, you know, I think it was like last year when we had Matze, myself, you, the awesome Mr. Luke Crane, we had Corby. It was sort of like everyone came as they were, but then like this year, they went, oh, there's your hoodie, there's your T-shirts, and I'm like, brilliant. I actually feel official. But it was the Ask Me uniform as well. Like, myself and Nico, we were getting collared, like saying, where's the schedule? Have you not looked on the ADAC Sim Racing Expo pages on socials? Oh, and then you'd have the odd person saying, I don't have social media. I don't even have a proper smartphone. And then showed me, and he had like an old school silver Motorola Razr that was in pristine nick, which I was like,
how's that even working still?
That's what I was thinking. I was like thinking, how the F is, you know, like there's like a big F in chat incoming, and he's got the most pristine, because you could get it in two colours. You could get it in the really, really dark matte black, or you could get it in the silver. And he had it in the silver, and I said, "Can you do me a favour? Yeah, can you just flip that open?" And it played the Motorola like the the old school jingle, which was cool. And I thought, oh my god, I had one of them back in the day. But
they are reincarnating some of the old phones though.
They are,
like, but they're modern. They're modern, but they look like the. Could it have been one of them, or was it definitely the one? It was
definitely the original. Definitely,
because back in the day, you could only text like 30 something characters, couldn't you? And then it would cross over to another text. Do you remember that? Do you remember those days?
Oh mate, I still remember the first ever mobile phone I had at 17. It was a birthday present from my mum and dad. That was actually the year where I actually got given my first car because they went. So it was mobile phone, and you might remember this one as well, Paul. The Ericsson GA628, which had the interchangeable colour front panels and the little bit on the aerial as well that you could change. And it was just one row of characters. For those wondering how antiquated they were back then, I'm going to put a picture on the screen now because I'm just sort of like laughing, like thinking, and I look and I go, it's 2023 and I've got one of these like nearly 30 years later. It's like I've got a personal computer in my hands.
Yeah.
And then that particular year, my dad went, well, there's one further surprise for you. Took me into the garage and there was a 1986 Mini Chelsea, bright red, and happy birthday, Alex, on the windscreen.
Oh, nice.
And this is when, like, you know, dealerships used to be quite prolific. It used to be a lot more family-run firms rather than the
chain.
The branches of certain big companies, like say Inchcape, Marshalls, Vertu. There's so many different manufacturers out there. Vertu Motors actually sponsor. Funnily enough, that I think it's accelerates in the British Touring Car Championship. Vertu Motors actually have a deal with them. And I remember it took me another 2 years before I passed my test, and I didn't pass first time, passed third time. And my dad went for didn't pass first time. I got two majors. I got a major on. I got two major. I got two failure marks on my first test. Second test had to be abandoned because halfway through I had a severe migraine. So I was left at the side of the road by the driving instructor and by the driving examiner because they were not insured to drive the car back. Then my instructor had to go and get a taxi from the DVLA test centre to come and pick me up and then take me home. And I only had two minor marks against me for third time. And then my dad went, right, okay, you're now insured. Spend the first week going around the local area. And it was the best advice I ever got. Just like, wouldn't drive anywhere further than, say, Colchester town centre. And for those wondering how far Paul and I live from each other, I'm probably about an hour and 45 minutes away from where he lives. Because, Gamer Muscle was on the same flight back as me from this year's expo back to Stansted. And then Adam from Simhound and his other half were also on the same flight. So
met them last year as well. Yeah. Really nice couple. You talking about your driving test, I'll always never forget mine because my driving instructor was away. And at the time, it was really hard to get a booking.
Yes.
So my parents had bought me an L-Reg. Was that 1995?
Yeah.
Ford Fiesta Blue thing, right? Thinking back, like it had when you change gear, it was like going from the UK down to New Zealand. It just had so much.
Right. I've got a quick. Was that a 4-speed gearbox, or was it a 5?
Do you know what? It's that long ago. I'm gonna say it was. I don't know.
What engine was it? Can you remember?
It was a 1 litre, 1.1.
That would have been a good old fashioned
4.
So reverse was lift up across the lifted up because my car after the Mini was an H-Reg 1 litre Fiesta bonus in flame red. So it was lift up the gear stick across the left and up, and then you had a proper what was considered, and that was the quintessential H-pattern gearbox. What I mean by an H-pattern gearbox is that the 4 gears are arranged in the letter H, so first, second, third, and fourth. Because the Mini actually was quite different. It had an H-pattern gearbox, but reverse was lift up across the right and down.
Down, yeah. Some of them were across and down,
but Ford.
And you'd have, and some of them you have a lever under the gear knob, wouldn't you, as well?
Yeah, you'd have that little bit where you could hook your 2 fingers up underneath, put the thumb on top, and then just go. Yeah.
So I did the driving test in my own car, and passed. But I'll never forget. I was driving down the road in Sevenoaks, where I was living at the time. That's where I spent most of my youth growing up. But and the guy turned around to me, the instructor turned around, or the examiner, sorry, turned around to me, and he looked at me, and he went, "I've had grannies drive faster than you." And I went, "Is that a hint?" Because what it was parked cars, so I was trying to take care, because you're supposed to leave a door whips and things like that. But yeah, he felt I wasn't driving. I think I got about 6 minors, nothing bad. But yeah, passed first time, passed my theory first time as well. I actually know that's a lie. I passed it second time. I didn't pass that first time at all. Yeah, but that was a long time ago now.
God, you're making this sound very, very old. Well, we probably are anyway. But
I think we've made ourselves sound old when we're talking about text messages and old mobile phones. You know,
I know. But that's the thing, folks. This is the beauty of this show. It's like 2 mates having a chat in a pub. Only we're not in a pub. Yeah. We're on a Discord call. No alcohol is involved yet. That will probably be post broadcast.
Well, I'm not. I'm actually I'm on a bit of a health kick, as you know. I like to hit the gym and things like that. And I lost a lot of weight a few years ago. That was I discovered the fitness thing about 8 years ago. Quit smoking, done all that good stuff, and with Christmas coming up, the festive period, there's lots of drinking and eating involved. So I want to try and enjoy myself without having to worry about getting back into a t-shirt and things like that. So I'm just abstain. Not that I drink a lot, but I'm abstaining from some alcohol until about mid-December. And then I've got a work event that I'm going to. It's not going to go crazy, but and I'm just watching what I'm eating at the moment for the next sort of few weeks. And it makes a difference. I find myself a little bit less lethargic because you're eating better things rather than eating chocolate. And as much as I love chocolate.
Don't get me started. Whenever I go overseas, I'm like a red rag to a bull. The first thing
but it's easily done because it's so hard when you're traveling, which like you do a lot. It's so hard to eat healthy or not go and buy something that's cheap, which generally when it's cheaper, it's not as healthy as it would be, because healthy food, unfortunately, is expensive. And fast food, fast food has its place. And don't get me wrong, I love a Five Guys or a Burger King.
Yeah.
Not so much a McDonald's these days. A Subway's decent, But we're not here to talk about fast food.
No. I try. I think the thing is and this was actually a very, very good point about what Paul said in episode 26, because he's already been on the show, and that was before he headed off to Macau and to Australia. Lucky bugger. I'm not jealous of him at all, actually.
Me neither. Me neither. I text him something like, "I hope you're not enjoying yourself too much." I just because obviously the time difference. So sometimes I wake up and he's like sent all these messages of like pure excitement. And of which, have you watched the video of him go around the mountain?
I haven't, because I have been. I did see him in the race suit, and I did see.
You need to watch. He makes some really funny noises because it's a lot different, isn't it? Being in control of a car, even on the road, right? Yeah. Sometimes you're in the passenger seat and you're like, why are they not braking? And you're trying to find the brake in front of you. And there's a little bit of that, I think, from Paul. And he's like making all these funny noises because you're being thrown around because the driver's got the steering wheel. So you can use that to kind of keep yourself in position, as where, it's brilliant. Honestly, I need to go back and clip some of the noises and maybe make them into some Discord sounds or something.
Because, yes. A Jeffrey soundboard special, a JSS.
Would be, I think it's required. Yeah, if I've got some time, I think it's definitely something I need to I need to do. Hopefully, he doesn't see this and go and remove the video, so I don't get the opportunity to.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Yeah.
Your video will probably be out by the time this is out anyway, because the thing is, folks, I've got such a log, I think, because at the time of this recording, we're less than 24 hours before Paul's episode goes live on the... No, 48 hours. So it's on the 8th, I think it's on the 18th at 6 p.m. UK it goes out. But yeah,
he's such a great guy. And actually, I met Paul for the first time at the 2019 Sim Racing Expo when he was at Nürburgring. So Bram and some of the guys some of his mates, we organised a big trip.
Yeah.
Over. Now we stayed I would say about 45 minutes to an hour drive from where the expo was, but it was a great trip. We had French with us, we had Spanish, we had Russians, we had I became really pally with a guy from Portugal, and who lives in Porto, and he's invited me out there, and I've never taken him up on the offer, but I will do at some point. I'll get there. I've been to Lisbon in Portugal, and it's beautiful. But going back to what you said about the community earlier on, that was an amazing weekend. Just so many people, and I don't mind drive. I drove there and back, and we were sharing music. Have you listened to this band? Because we had so much time between where we were staying and the track. But the expo's come a long way since then. But there's still some bits missing for me, I think, from an expo point of view. Because we had Logitech there last year, but I don't think they were there again this year.
No.
And Thrustmaster had never been, have they? I don't think Thrustmaster ever appeared.
MOZA weren't there because they'd apparently overspent on their marketing budget. And there were a couple of the big hitters, of course, like, say, SimuCube. Amongst others, had not been there. Eau Rouge weren't there. But you had a lot of the... I think one of the things that a lot of people were... And I mentioned this before in the show, that there were those people that didn't go, that have never been to a sim racing expo, and like to try and set a little bit of a fire underneath the organisation that's running it, which is now Southwest Vision. But I think the stability of the Sim Racing Expo is now assured for the next 4 years, up until 2027, which I think is a very, very good idea. Of course, people are still pining for the Nürburgring. It doesn't matter how long, because next year will be a decade, or the 10th anniversary of the Sim Racing Expo actually having taken place.
Oh, wow.
And people like saying, why don't you take it to the Nürburgring? Well, first of all, the promenade's not big enough to hold everything.
And also, logistically, it's a nightmare getting to and from.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you got to think about, right? Is there's a big contingent coming from all over Europe, and even last year, it was a better like, okay, it would be nice to have some racing going on outside, right? That was a nice element of it, to be honest, when I went in 2019, but it doesn't make or break the event.
No.
But I think for me, sometimes it's not necessarily the organisers' fault, but sometimes it could be a little bit too high end. So, because I don't think everybody's going to splash £1,000 here or £2,000 here on equipment. So it does need to try and, where it can, cater for low to mid to high, which it's hard to do. And like you say, I was surprised MOZA weren't there, because they've been doing so much over the last sort of 12 months, especially releasing new products, and of course doing the MOZA Endurance Championship as well. So, but hopefully they'll be there next year. That'd be weird, because I'd love to. I've never seen a MOZA base or a MOZA wheel in person. And I'm at that point now, I'm thinking, what's next for my personal setup?
Yeah.
And do I stick with the Fanatec that I've got now? Like, I'm in the ecosystem, not too madly, but I've got a 2.5 CSW with 2 rims. I've got the Porsche rim and the Formula V2, and then I've got the V3 pedals as well. So I think my next upgrade is going to be the pedals. I upgraded the rig recently, so I got a new rig from Next Level Racing, which I absolutely adore. and that's been a nice upgrade. So I think pedals next for me. So yeah, because I'm trying to get back. I mean, I was talking about you recently, wasn't I? I'm trying to get, and also I mentioned it on the MOZA Endurance. I'm trying to get back into racing a bit more at the moment.
Yeah.
And I mean, I am bad. I mean, when I say bad, I mean I'm racing at AOR at the moment on Tuesday nights, and I'm in tier 7 out of 7, which tells you how bad I am. But I was on pace, and I was P7, so it's competitive. I was enjoying myself, and then I go and spank it. I go lose it into the wall. Boom! My pit stop was going to be like a minute, so I went in, repaired the car, and then it started raining, and I had more pace than the guys ahead of me, and I was back up into P7, and I spanked it again, and that was basically the end of my race. I had to go back to the pits because the car couldn't drive. Stuck in the pits for 3 minutes, stuck it out, finished P24, but I was genuinely emotionally wrecked afterwards. I was I was distraught. And I think that's something I'm trying to work on, is trying to keep my cool and not. And because if I lose my cool, then how can I focus? But I'm definitely a better broadcaster / commentator than I am racer. But being a racer also gives me that bit of knowledge and things when I can bring that into my commentary, which I think is useful. And I understand the game as well. Sim. I understand the sim. So I might get some daggers for calling it a game. But
a lot of people outside of the genre call it a freaking game, so don't worry. You're not gonna be thrown under the bus by me for saying that. But yeah, I completely understand that. By knowing about the nuances of the sims like R Factor 2, ACC, iRacing, AMS2, there's so much that we as commentators can provide an insight to if we've driven the sims. I mean, I've driven ACC, I've driven RF2, I've driven iRacing, I've driven AMS2. Funny enough, that was I think it was Stock Car Pro Series, and it was in Eduardo Barrichello's Toyota Corolla from this year at Goiânia at the Oval. I first did the main circuit, proper road circuit layout, and then did the Oval. Oval, I spanked it at least 3 times into the wall, which wasn't great. But the main circuit was really, really cool. And then I tagged Rubens, Dudu. I tagged who else? Felipe Fraga, who's also a very, very keen sim racer. Actually, met him at the CrowdStrike 24 Hours when he was running with the Riley crew in the number 4 Merc that unfortunately got involved in one of the incidents just before Charles Wirtz and Neil Verhagen came together, just off of the Kemmel Straight heading into Licom, and it was 13 hours to go, and at 240 kph, Charles Wirtz gets a smack from behind and is pinballed from right to left down the Kemmel Straight, and it brings out a full course yellow for an hour and 15 minutes whilst they have to repair the barriers on both sides. But yeah, that is I think in some respects, by us as commentators having that understanding of the nuances of how the simulator works is also part and parcel of the preparation that we have. I mean, I don't have a sim rig at home. I'm completely honest and upfront about that. If I get the chance to go on a sim, great. I mean, if you might remember from 2022 when I was being pulled from pillar to post by the main broadcasting team, not the guys who we knew anyway, Ricardo from the ADAC, and then we had the legends that are Mike Yao and Steve Proudley. For all and
Steve Proudley nearly killed me on a. He thought he was funny on an e-scooter. I'll tell you that story.
Oh God, yeah. Well, we'll get to that. We can talk about that in a minute.
We're definitely. I'm calling him out on this podcast. Yeah, I've called him out.
I'm sure he won't mind. Steve's a good.
He's a great guy.
Salt of the earth, that bloke.
Yeah.
But you remember, literally, we got to Sunday night, and I just wanted to do one thing, which was go the fuck to bed. Because at that point, we had a very, very different broadcast setup to what we had for the Sim Racing Expo this year, which actually didn't have the specific language barrier that we had in 2021. We had a very different broadcast crew then. This year was a lot more streamlined, where it was all structured in the right way. The stage didn't have the significant overload of presence, and by that I mean the amount of panels, Steve and Dan being pulled royally under the bus by not the people that were behind the scenes, because I was going to help to host that press conference.
Yes, yeah.
And it was like,
they got given it, didn't they?
They well, yeah, like literally.
Last moment Steve was hosting it, wasn't he? Last moment.
Yeah, well, it was like 90 seconds to 2 minutes to go, and him and Dan are like literally thrown into the lion's den.
Yeah.
And I'm like saying, I said to Danny and Arnold were like saying, yeah, you should be up there as well because you know exactly what's going on. And I'm like thinking, why the F did this just happen?
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, I was asked to critique things behind the scenes, and I remember giving the relevant people concerned, who I won't name, not the broadcast people, but the people organising it, and I gave them a 3-page A4 document on what I felt could improve, and there was a massive, massive improvement between what was going on between everybody for this year. Big difference. But as I said, I was being pulled from pillar to post. So I was doing VTs. I was doing walking around Hall 9.
Yes.
This year was completely different in the fact that when I wasn't in the booth with Nico, there was actually time to talk to people. But Saturday, I thought, yeah, well, we got a bit of time between race 1 and race 2 for the professional trophy. Did I get on anything this year? No. Hell no. I did. And the thing was, it was just like the amount of people, they were queuing up from like 9:30 in the morning to enter into the hall if they hadn't already got their tickets. They were like, it was 8 to 10 rows wide. And Marco, who's the CEO of Southwest Vision, he went, Alex, come and have a look at this. And I looked and my jaw dropped and inside my head went, effing hell, look at that. And then one of the guys from Azatec came along and went, we need more people. I turned around to him and I went, oh, you think? But like the footfall on Saturday was really, really good because where Dortmund is based, you're not that far away from, say, Düsseldorf. Dortmund Airport is 20 minutes away, if that, depending on traffic. Düsseldorf is about an hour by train. So the Ruhrgebiet, within a 3-hour span in North Rhine-Westphalia, covers a span of 22 million people. And it's really, really good in terms of the location. It's very industrially centric, that city. And it's a nice place. I mean, like literally on the Saturday night, myself, Nadi, Ollie, Danny, Matza, Ansha, we all went out for schnitzel, and we ended up at the same restaurant as Gamer Muscle, Cameron Daz, Swelio Almeida, and everybody else, and we were just like having an absolute blast. I can remember some of the conversation, but and Alex as well, the other Alex as well. We were just having an absolute laugh, and then Matsu got onto the story of kiwis and two kiwis in a sock, and then someone went, I'm never going to look at kiwis the same way at breakfast ever again. You can tell that the tone went really, really down. But
as it always does.
But it was like Sunday night. We'd had an absolutely awesome time, and we just really, really enjoyed it. It was really, really good. Luke Crane, as always, he's a great guy, and he just basically said on. So he always does that. He did it last year as well. He said, I can't believe how you've put the trust in me to host it. But the thing was, Luke is a natural charismatic individual, and he comes across really, really well as a host. And him and Matsi are like really, really good buddies. And I got talking with Luke over. I think we were due to go out for the party, and Luke and I and Matsi. Well, Luke and I we were like having a beer in a hotel room and just chilling out and just sort of talking and catching up, which is always a good thing. Well, I've got to now start. Well, you know what? Before we get onto the routine line of questioning, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Proudly e-scooter. Tell us the story. Spill the beans. Go for it.
So I think it was on the Sunday night. We went out for quite a few of us, influencers, just me, Steve, a few others, Dan, Terry, Lawrence, a few others.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the guys from Simhound and his missus. I'm terrible at remembering names, so apologies everybody.
No.
We ended up going out for a Mexican, but when we got there, I think we got there by tram because the tram got us there. And then they were like, but then Steve and Dan had gone back to the hotel first, then made their way, and they were like, God, yeah, we got e-scooters. And we're like, right, let's get the app. Right, let's go back on e-scooters. Yeah, this sounds like a great idea. So anyway, but the problem was there were different apps, there were different types of scooters, and it was busy as well, because I think England were playing that night, and I was watching it on my iPhone in the restaurant.
Antisocial git, you.
I know it is, but yeah, it wasn't just me. Everybody, people wanted to watch it, and back then we were still part of the EU, so you could get your data. Anyway, that's another story. So with that happened, and then so I then finally, took me what felt like forever to find, and it was cold, wasn't it, December? So it took me forever to find a scooter anyway. So on this scooter anyway, so we then traipsing back, and we are flying, right? We are going somewhere, and on the way back, we were on the road, and we were trying not to get killed as well, which is important, health and safety first. And then as we got closer and closer to the hotel, you got the nice wide paths, and we're just full throttle. Steve and I got on both different types of scooters, and we're like, "What's this light flashing for?" And we're like, "Don't know. Is it complaining we're going too fast? What is it?" Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we go outside the hotel, and we're like, "Right." Johnny goes, "No, you can't leave these here." And we're like, well, "Hold on, but they can leave those there, but they're different types of scooters." So then what happened was then Steve and I, and then other Steve and Mike Yao jumped on our scooters and tried to find a location where we could leave ours. They discovered there was an area on the map, and it was like, if it was red, you couldn't leave them there. Right. New to me. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so found this location down like this little track, left the scooters, and then I got on with Steve on his scooter. The man's mad. He's absolutely, and he kept doing stupid things, and I'm holding around this man's waist, right? We'd only met for the first time that weekend. It's a bit, so I feel like I'm feeling the man up, and we've spoken before. No, not a problem. No, we've got a rapport. And the first time I met him was in the Weatherspoons at Stansted Airport before the flight out. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we go tearing round the corner into the thing, and he basically just leaves it to the last moment to stop and to freak me out as if we're going to crash into the side of the building.
Oh no!
He thought it was hilarious. I thought I was going to die. And
possibly have it beer. And probably have a Code Brown and a clean up on aisle 3 at the same time whilst croaking.
All of the above. Yeah. So we still joke about it. I think he finds himself funny. One day, Mr. Prowley, when you least expected it, I will get you back somehow. I'm not sure how yet, but I will. Your cards are marked, sir. Yes.
Steve. Yeah. Calm as a bitch. Calm as a bitch. I mean, I'm really liking the changing format of, we've now been talking for nearly 45 minutes on this show.
Yes. Yeah,
which is quite a long old time, but it hasn't beaten Phil Kinch's record, which is an hour and 48 minutes, including outro and intro. So we're going to be north of an hour on this one, but you know what, folks? This is why I do this show. It ain't about analytics. It's not about subscriber counts. It's not about the amount of plays it gets on audio or video. You get to understand the people who I know in this industry and people who I may not know in this industry as well. Mm-hmm. But we now go to the routine line of questioning, and there's only a handful of them, but they're ones that I think are quite pertinent, really. Mm-hmm. Well, you've just been talking about funny moments. So what I'm now going to do, by the magic of social media, is go to Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Because Paul doesn't know what I've been looking at.
Oh, blimey. Okay. Is it on my Twitter account by any chance?
Yes. So cast your mind back to the 31st of August this year, Mr. Glover.
Right.
Owners busy scrounging around for our next appointment. And I'm going to put the picture on there. There's cans of 7-Up, there's cans of Coke, there's
Oh,
bottles of Oasis, there's packets of crisps all over the shop on the smallest glass table I've ever seen on my life. What the hell is that all about?
that's football related. So I'm a Charlton Athletic fan for my sins. Those of you who don't follow football, back in the heyday, we were in the English Premier League, fighting with the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea and whatnot. We've taken a bit of a tumble since those days. We're now languishing in League One, and we had some owners which at it's a long story, but they're basically were taking money. They were taking money out of the club
Right.
in no uncertain terms, and they promised so much, and the fans welcomed with open arms. So basically, we'd had an owner called Roland de Châtelet, who's a Belgian, was trying to do like a pyramid scheme with his club, so he'd own clubs in different nations.
Yeah.
And the idea was that he could transfer the players within that scheme to save money, right? I completely got where he was working, but what he came in and did was he overrode the decisions of the manager, which is never going to go down well with your fans, especially a club like Charlton Athletic. So he eventually sold due to protests that were going on, prolonged protests from the fans of the club. In comes in these new owners with a guy that's supposed to be a sheikh, and having all this money, and he had this guy that was fronting it, who came in, but it turns out that he was buying his mates Range Rovers and things like that. And before that all came out, he tweeted that picture on saying, "Oh, we're busy here working all transfer dealings," but it was just a charade. It wasn't actually happening. So we've got new owners came in since then, and I was basically just mocking them a little bit, saying, "Oh yeah, they're going to tweet out this picture saying, oh yeah, we're busy, trying to bring in players." And to their credit, actually, they did in the end. They brought in a couple of loan signings, which turned out to be rather decent for us this season. But yeah, that's what that tweet was all about. So
yeah, it's just like sometimes it's either a picture or someone puts like a GIF or something that just straight away screams like, that looks like there's a funny story behind it. And they actually ended up being more interesting than with a little bit of hilarity thrown in for good measure, courtesy of him.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, for those of you who are, are interested in the what's been going on, there's a website called the Charlton Athletic Dossier, and it will kind of give you all the history about the ownership and what happened. So it's the Charlton Dossier .com. If you're interested,
I'll link that in the description down below, or if you're listening on one of our various audio partners as well, through either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, it will be in the description on that as well. Paul, being a fellow petrolhead, have you ever been starstruck meeting either a racing driver or a personality within either sim racing or motorsport?
Have I ever been starstruck? Yeah. Eddie Irvine.
Oh, okay.
At Goodwood Festival of Speed. Yeah, he was in the tent, and got the opportunity to speak to him, and also Sir Jackie Stewart.
Oh, legend! Absolute legend.
Yeah. And I should have, and I had the opportunity to, and I didn't take it. I was at the Goodwood Revival that same year. I'd never been before, and I went, and I spotted out the corner of my eye, sitting at a set of steps, the one and only Sir Murray Walker. And I should have gone up and spoken to him.
Oh man!
And I don't know why I didn't. I mean, I wasn't doing commentary or anything back in those days, but he's just a legend of of motorsport, and we lost him a few years ago now. But
yeah,
one of my regrets, one of my regrets was never kind of going up, and I don't necessarily get starstruck in the sense that like some people are like, oh my god, it's you. I just treat them like they're like anybody. I'm pretty much like that. Whether you're the office, I'm one of the people that always says good morning to the cleaners. How are you? A bit of small chat.
yeah.
I'm the same if you're the CEO or whatever. I don't care if you're a celebrity or whatever you are. I will just, but to meet Eddie Irvine briefly and have a brief chat. And Sir Jackie Stewart was an absolute gent. And I also I forget his name, so apologies. The Lord that owns the grounds as well.
Lord March.
I got because I had the program for the day, so I managed to get him to sign it and things like that, and gave that to my dad. My dad on the way out got to meet Jamiroquai. So we were because when you're there, if you've ever been to Goodwood, you'll know it's just layers and layers of cars in the the field outside, right? And as we're leaving, Jamiroquai is there, and my dad's claim to fame is Jamiroquai told him to fuck off. So brilliant, and I got it on video as well. So yeah, brilliant.
Well, funny enough, their frontman JK was actually at the same public school, Holmwood House, in just outside of Colchester, and he was 2 years above me.
Right. Okay.
So, which was quite weird, to be honest with you. And one of my friends went, "Do you realise that JK went to Holmwood House?" I went, "Really? You yanking my crank? Are you pulling my freaking leg here? I mean, come on. It's."
Well, I had another moment with JK because I was walking through Covent Garden and stepped out in front of his Bentley.
Oh no! Did he tell you to F off then as well?
No, I honestly can't remember. I would have had headphones on and whatnot, but yeah, I mean, it was my fault, not his. So if he had hit me, he would have been full of blame me. But yeah, that's true as well. Yeah. So, and I used to, every day I used to do 5 days up in London back in the day. So you used to see the odd celebrity and things like that, and it's kind of just part of the territory of working uptown.
Yeah. What inspires you as a broadcaster and commentator when it comes to sim racing? What do you take as forms of inspiration, Paul?
I just enjoy the events, and I love talking. I think that's partly the thing is, you get me talking and I can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
My mum always said to me, Paul, you've got verbal diarrhea.
Same here. Same here.
Growing up, I think part of it's that, but because it's something that I'm passionate about in not only racing myself, but also portraying what we see on screen and giving an opinion, which may differ to somebody else. And also, I'm not one of these people that sits on the fence a lot of the time. And that might rub certain people up the wrong way, but I've seen clips of other commentators like Paul Jeffrey, and other esports drivers kind of putting things out there. I've never had that happen to me quite yet, but I also think I'm quite fair.
Yeah.
So and I'm passionate about, and I genuinely enjoy it. And even when we do the commentary, Alex, I think it's pretty much like it is now. We kind of work off each other very, very well. I think we complement each other.
Yeah.
Your pronunciations are far better than mine. I mean, that is the one thing that lets me down is my pronunciations. But then I'm not full time, right? And it is hard to sometimes prep. I do prep, but it is hard because I know how much work that you put into it. And it's not necessarily something I want to do full time. I enjoy having my career because the thing is that a lot of this, I'm sure you find this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the work you do is weekends, and I'm working Monday to Friday. I know that James Parfitt would love me to do more work for him, but the thing is, I said to him, I don't want to overcommit and then start letting you down, and because that's the thing, I want people to trust me that if I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. I don't want to get to this point where I'm like, oh, do you know what? I really don't fancy it this weekend, or, and I do my utmost to avoid overcommitting where I end up with this thing, because I've got a life, I got to see friends, I got to see family, etc. But yeah, it's going back to your question. I love it, and I love everything coming together. So it's not just one particular thing,
Yeah.
but it's the whole thing for me. Getting to work with some amazing people and people appreciating, and you get some great feedback, right? And it's lovely, and the interaction is lovely as well, where you'll say something and somebody might correct you on something, or perhaps give you a bit of inside knowledge and things like that. Because even when I step away from the microphone, sometimes I'll message you little tidbits and things that I'm spotting, because I've always got. I've got 4 screens here, one widescreen, 2. I've got live timing up on this thing. I'm digging around. I'm trying to spot things, because when you're commentating or the director's looking at a battle, I might be looking further down the field and bringing our attention to something else. So I want to add value to the broadcast and draw the attention. And you'll do the same thing when I'm talking. You'll be looking around and finding relevant bits of information to then lead on from when I start talking, to interject and go, I've just spotted this with the pit stops, or such and such. And I just, even when I'm talking about it, you can just tell that I just enjoy it. I mean, it's so hard to nail down one thing for me.
I think it's also the fact that if you sit on the fence and you're on a broadcast with James Parfitt, he'll say, don't do that, you get splinters up your bum. And again, that's like a characteristic of commentators. We all have our sort of like subtle differences in the fact of how we look at it, how we explain to you people out there. Because a lot of the stuff that we're going into, really, really technical terms, the first thing is, like, we'll have a discussion, like, say, me and Paul will have a discussion about, like, say, camber, toe in, toe out, or whatever.
Strategy, whatever it may be.
And then we explain it for the folks at home, because some of them might be new to sim racing. They go, what the F is camber? What is this? What is that? So we have to do as I like to call it, the layman's terminology, or basically it's the introduction for those that are not quite there with it yet, as in they don't understand. They probably haven't got the greatest IQ in the world, but if you explain it to them like that, one of my friends said, and it was the perfect way, he said, I said to him, do you understand that? No. Speak to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Yeah. By doing that, you're going to get a lot more people that might not know about it, and then they'll go, oh yeah, I remember what Alex Goldschmidt was saying on the broadcast. Explained about camber, explained about toe in, toe out, and explained about all these different things, and really made it easy for me to understand. And the thing is, about us as commentators, we're there to inform, to educate, and to entertain. That is the 3 main things. But also, we like to tell a good yarn or two as well, whilst we're on a 6-hour broadcast. I think.
But I prefer being the colour rather than the main commentator. I mean, I can do the main piece, but I do feel more comfortable being the Martin Brundle kind of, interjecting, talking about action from time to time, but also just trying to piece the story together. And looking at what's going on with the pit stops, how long they've been, etc., etc. Talking about penalties, stewards' decisions, and that's the other thing is, right, it's not we can just be the voices, or sometimes the faces of a broadcast, but then you've got the broadcast, the person who's controlling the broadcaster behind. But you've also then got people that are organising the event, making sure the drivers understand, please join in a certain order, otherwise you're going to break things. And everything else that goes on behind it. And then you've got people that do the live stewing in as well, so doing race control and all those kind of good things. So, we're just the voices that people hear, but there are also others behind the scenes that do a great amount of work, and we'll also mock you if you say something stupid, which is absolutely fine. Like, I love it. It's all part of the bants, as people say.
Yeah, it's all about the bants. It really is. Yeah. Paul, off the top of your head right now, can you tell me top 3 moments in motorsport that you've watched that have involved other commentators in the broadcast? So top 3.
First one for me, Murray Walker, Damon Hill winning the World Championship.
I've got to stop right now because I've got a lump in my throat. Suzuka 1996. That's a firm favourite with a lot of people. Okay.
Yeah. The second, not such a great moment, is always sticks in my memory. The day that Ayrton Senna died.
Mm-hmm.
That was always, a sad day, and I will always remember. And I was very fortunate enough when I worked for a firm years ago, a guy that I still hear from now and then, Matt. He had tickets to a premiere for the Senna movie, and the doctor that treated him and the director and things, there was like a whole
Dr.
thing
Sid
after,
Watkins and all that lot.
yes,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sid Watkins, yeah, all there, and his mechanics and things, like it was kind of a seminal moment for me, and again, something I'll always remember. And then number 3, and it's because I put a bet on it that I remember this, was Jenson Button winning the World Championship. So I remember, I remember sitting on the train reading the Evening Standard, reading about how Brawn were 2 seconds quicker than everyone else, going, that is just unbelievable. And I put 20 quid down. It wasn't a lot. I didn't have a lot of money. In hindsight, I should have put a hell of a lot more money on it. But it was squeaky bum time as the season went on because everyone else was catching up with their double diffusers.
Yep.
But that's on topic, actually, because this week, I know this podcast isn't coming out this week, but the Brawn documentaries now
with Keanu Reeves holding,
Keanu Reeves, yeah. Mate, so I've watched episode 1. It's worth watching if you haven't. If you're on the fence, it's good. It reminds me of somebody. I'll take somebody in a Discord post, and they're right. It's got a bit of a BBC feel to it. With the archive footage and things like that. It's brilliant. Yeah. So they're all Formula One related because that's always kind of what I watched growing up, and and these days I watch a bit of touring cars from time to time. I'm into my football, so football takes up a lot of my sport time.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're the 3 moments for me.
Okay, Paul. Final question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where I always flip the script on my guests because they have to give an answer, and then I will respond with my own answer in relation to what they have provided on this question. So, Paul Glover, your final question on episode 33 of Commentator's Corner is as follows: if you had an unlimited budget, no glass ceiling, unlike the cost cap in Formula One, that's a regular gag now here on the show. Mm-hmm. You could have the pick of either a road or a race car to choose. You can actually pick more than one. Daniel Gilligan earlier on picked 8 and they were all McLarens. But we won't go that far. So you can have a choice of a road or a race car or maybe 2 or 3 at max. And you can pick a circuit that you would like to drive that car or those cars around. I can see you're deep in thought already because this one always gets my guests thinking. So, Paul, in your own time.
I've always loved the Ferrari 355 for some reason. I don't know why. That would be my road car of choice. Just something not overpowered, but something nimble. I like a nimble car, right? I mean, a lot of people would probably go F40, maybe F50, of that kind of era a little bit, But the 355 for me, even the Modena, the Modena back in the day, even tickled my fancy a little bit.
What you mean, like the F430 Modena?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, let's look at it. That we'll decide on those 2 cars, but I have a very, very specific question. For both cars. So on the 355, would it be the Berlinetta, the coupe, or would it be the Spider, as in the Cabrio? What would it be out of?
Wouldn't be a Cabrio. I'm not a fan of Cabrios. I never have been, never will.
Okay, and then the F430. You've either got the choice of the Modena, or would it be the Challenge Stradale, the stripped-out nigh-on race-going version?
No. I think it'll be the Modena for me. I'm not. Okay. I like my mod cons. I like Yeah, and I get why some people like the stripped out. Like my cousin owns one of the stripped out Clios, like where it's got the plastic
Oh God,
windows.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not into that. That's not me. But I get that that some people do go for that kind of thing. I'm trying to think track. Actually, why did I race it? I do like Kota. I did quite enjoy racing on that the other day. Lots of runoff just in case you get it wrong.
True.
Paul Ricard is a funny one because a lot of people don't like it, but I quite like Paul Ricard. I don't think it's great just to driving around, but I think racing it's great because you've got different lines that go around it, for different sections of the track. I've always had a fondness towards Brands Hatch because that was always been my local track.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the biggest, of course, and you can't go the fastest on it, but I think it's a great little track. Silverstone, where would I go, man? Not Monza. Portimao.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love the undulation
Mm-hmm.
in Portimao. I mean, I've been around the Nordschleife. I wasn't driving, but that actually made me a little bit sick. I was quite surprised how stomach churning the Nordschleife is when I went round in a taxi. That was a good trip. That was Expo 2019. Got it on video, but my microphone didn't work, so it was really annoying. So it's a silent video.
You need to go noir on that, so it's a bit of Charlie Chaplin-esque.
Yeah, maybe that's what I need to do. Actually, yeah. I'm gonna say Portimao.
Okay.
Because you can have decent weather. It's Portugal because the British weather's not so great most of the time. And I'm gonna go Portimao. I think that could be quite interesting. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, in response, I would pick one of the two cars, which would be the F430, but it would not be the Modena. It would be the Challenge Stradale.
Yeah.
Well, you can't have a Cavallino Rampante apart from anywhere else in Italy unless it's Monza or Imola. And it's Imola. That's my choice. With Variante.
It's a great track. Imola's a great track.
Acqua Minerale, Variante Alta, Piratella, the double left-hander, and that really, really weird long start-finish straight, which isn't really in a straight line.
Yeah, it's not. And that's where George Russell and
Valtteri Bottas came together.
Came together.
At about 340 kilometres an hour. Ouch.
Yeah. That is. It's a shame that the area before, when Formula One was in town earlier this year, they had that heavy rain, didn't they?
Yes.
Absolute chaos to the area. So hopefully they've recovered well enough from that, and we get to race there again next year because it is a wonderful track. It's actually a really good choice, Alex. I'll give you that. So
likewise, mate. Likewise. But Paul, thank you very much for being on episode number 33 of Commentator's Corner. It's been a pleasure to have you alongside me again, buddy.
Thank you very much for the invite. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hope you've enjoyed my ramblings. But yeah, if you want to follow me on the socials, it's at GlovePup, GLOVEPUP. No one, if anybody cares, the reason it's GlovePup is because growing up, that's what my friends nicknamed me, because Glover, and then I've always been the short one in the group. So Pup.
Yeah. So the pup of the group. Yeah. Okay, now I understand the nickname.
Now you understand. And I just can't change the handle. It's handle and everything. So Instagram, Twitter, everything. It's just Discord. Like it's everywhere. So it'll follow me until the day that I die.
Might be on your tombstone as well. Here lies Glove Pup in inverted commas with Paul Glover underneath it. Well, folks, thank you very much for tuning in to episode 33. Still got some great guests lined up here on the show, so thank you for watching on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much to everyone listening on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Downforce Radio, the nation's motorsport station. Stay tuned for episode 34. Until next time, if in doubt, flat out, and I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.